Welcome to Greenkill on a snowy December night. Welcome to this performance of Dicteedict. The music you have been listening to by Meterpool is entitled Lacunae 3, the third of a four-part series, all of which are made using natural and synthesized sound, which has been processed using granular synthesis techniques, and which contain random silences or lacunae. Dicteedict, to see past the end of our nose, part 1, is the telling of Dicte, a triptych, back into its origin, the book Dicte, a vertical elegy. Sam Truitt and Kimber Truitt will speak huddled together its words as the sounds and sights of its incarnation, Dicte, whelm them, as though it were one echo, and at its edge find we rhyme. In this case, it falls to the double E in the titles palindrome, Dicte and edict. The audiovisual work Dicte, a triptych, transposes word sets made from a year-long daily interaction with 144-word blocks of a sequential, thematically loose-jointed text of the book Dicte into sounds, music, speech, recordings, symbols, images, photos, films, movies, and whatever seemed to magnetize to what that day the words said, with some themes seeming to carry for some days as experience dictated. Edited, recombined, spliced, diced, at times to the fabled 1/10 of a second and overlaid with text, the work mounted up each day from November of 2012 to November 22nd, 2013, the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination in Dallas. Weighing in at over 6 hours, this became the basis of its 3-screen delivery. So while Dicte is a work of environmental art made of sound, music, words, speech, and moving still images, it is also a work of process art, which is the way Truitt would hope you may know this. The Dicte text is from Truitt's Dicte, a vertical elegy, published in 2013 by Lunar Chandelier, a prose poem about JFK's assassination, including the name of one of its plotters. That information, cloaked through a number of layers of cipher, is transmitted through the Morse code passages, the seemingly undifferentiated plane of which is broken up with stage directions from Shakespeare's tragedies. Truitt notes that this 10-year-old work has an uncanny relevance to where we find ourselves today in the fascist rise, as though once again the artistic antennae have caught a vector of our collective zeitgeist with glimpses of maybe a way out of this mess. The work states, the goal's never been to eliminate crime. After all, it is the human basis, but rather than everyone being on their own crime spree, to centralize and coordinate the process. Truitt would stress that if in the West we start with the Eden expulsion of Adam and Eve for a crime against their creator, then truly this performance in the reading of this edict is a telling back to our origin and testament to the fact that, quote, words that matter leave mind shattered. What remains to be known past that event is up to you.
Did they do it?
At the pump.
Did they do it?
At the pump.
Did they do it?
At the pump.
Did they? Not yet. Did they do it?
At the pump.
Did Jill hit Jack?
But each place is well.
And each well a hole
Circled by hunters.
on their hams,
With spears listening.
between the broken and whole,
Words into darkness.
below for the
Of
sound
their breathing.
and the breathing of the whole.
In the dark for some fall.
That is, after all,
A cause for image projected.
staring back into them
With red eyes.
with hard, heavy shoulders.
With terror.
Be still. But the pigeons are all gone.
The dock deserted.
There are no voices from here to record the descent
And the cleaning fluids in the inn swirl back
into their respective jars. False statement,
I don't know how I fell asleep.
and don't know if I'm awake now.
True enough.
I don't know how I fell asleep last night, and don't know if I'm awake now.
True enough.
Summary of scene.
Questions.
Do we have key sentences?
Passages.
What results?
What does it say about
Relationship.
This is not enough.
And how many holes do I find when I sound enough? There is not enough time to come back to see.
Her eyes wide open underwater.
I only know what people said,
And sometimes wrote.
and sometimes didn't say.
And sometimes didn't write.
And only now, vein by vein, leaf on leaf,
Putting together an arc.
through which to pass on,
Pass out.
pass grown,
Pass tally sticks of loam.
drool,
Slurps.
spurts,
Squirts.
tears,
Ooze.
gums,
AKA slug.
aka shining tragic area,
AKA I have walked this earth.
an inseparable silence of afternoon detention touched,
Delicate as a bird in flight.
check 6,
The sphincter.
bound, passing on the stage to the place of execution, and B, going before, pleading. In the United States, there are more spaces where nobody is,
Then when anybody is.
she writes.
A few trees stick out.
MRX,
We all came here for the cleavage.
and left embarrassed. Giggo,
Charlie might.
enter a soldier in the woods, a rude tomb scene.
He or she's either a good criminal or a bad one.
And we have places for both.
The black dog.
Its face in sections,
On the motherboard waiting to be pawed.
sung to sleep
But never all.
at once,
It must be lattice.
X's to mark each spot,
So that thoughts got something to grow on.
to latch on,
Catch.
gnaw,
To claw.
to slip past. We must not tear at the meshes, the N in the above,
Like net and let.
and facit, exeunt omnes,
Then every day seems to end with its ass in the air.
a red door
Who's that hiding?
in the treetops,
Predictably, we refer to it
as in Nargia, because it's destined from the sun, who thunders with his spear, plucking feathers off a flower
a little yellow bird.
on the windowsill.
That's why we can't take things.
Properties,
Whole,
there'd be nothing
improperty.
left to hold.
That's why we can't take too long.
Or when we do, facts explode.
Faces,
BFM,
or what we are ignites what we are.
metal wings on the stump, flung into ECP,
To lose
Sucking rubber.
our faces.
or Whiskey Delta,
We are on the back of a monitor.
our collaborator,
It's a spear, face in.
a black sun sucking alpha,
The sides of the leaves near his brow were whitened.
signifying the radiant heat he gave off.
Sure, I caught the rhyme.
But have I jammed a man inside
Enter D
and C,
with L.
ravished,
Her hands cut off.
and her tongue cut out,
Knocking without.
I've been a water
knocking within?
Enter an old courier.
He throws a rock at him.
We wear iron.
Masks. Got to move like a diamond.
Nothing can touch the now. And the day the rebel is sheep for rent or reward.
Singing within, exit ghost.
Cloaked in myth and dysfunction,
The city bloated lies dreaming before us.
but across the desert,
A mirror,
at angels,
36, the important versus the merely, simply relevant feelings form a convex concave,
curve looking up at the world, looking down within an awareness of scale.
as well as the scales of the rainbow-hued dragon that rules our CHT.
The small, wholesome towns of the Republic.
There are 3 streetlights.
The way the roads get weird around the courthouse.
The music coming up on the brown-skinned actress and the doctor with the eyeglasses.
2 day lilies to starboard, eating lotus nuts.
The sullen man and the woman who has brought her own earbuds.
To gaze into the spray and rapture.
She could be down there, looking up over the rainbow,
Stopped at a train crossing,
singing "Hail to the Meat."
through the throat.
The penultimate shot, a dime-sized tunnel through the throat.
Still smokes.
Today we squeeze Fido through that hole.
To reach America.
Enter first murderer to the door.
Enter the banditti.
Flourish.
Penance.
Midday banquet.
Enter ghost.
Knocking within. Exeunt omnes with torches.
Throws up another skull.
There is no mugshot.
Enter fighting alarums. Sphincter equals Riddler equals what empties, aka what makes holes in the hollow in the side of the face.
In which wasps build salvo pits.
Enter O with a light.
And D in her bed asleep.
Send in the jackals
Enter M
with M's skull.
Ungrows on.
If a man is dust,
Those who walk the plains.
but why start a fire when everything is?
The wreckage of past civilization.
3 newly born mosquitoes circle his last breath, and his back become the arc of a locust tree bough, off which the swings hung.
Complete, we orbit what is stung.
It will rain tonight.
Pull chalks.
Enter K, disguised as C,
Like a vast statue motionless, inert.
except an enormous glaucous panopticonic eye unblinking guides in total awareness the birth state. Forces gather that don't have anything to do with it.
Or all the arrows seem to hit rump dead salvo, not what is needed.
Wanted, or even there.
Nor is the most anything
Any meeting.
distinct.
Though hope remains that at any point some Moab will swing and from the side catch
The roof and lay bare those people having drinks with friends
beside the pool
under the candy-striped awning.
in early
The
evening.
out of
Discussing
focus
Dick.
moments. One after
Or it's easy
another after
enough
the
for a
next.
spider to get
Mistake
centered,
after
but it's
mistake
got 8,
after
not
mistake.
7.
Legs, and only after locking on the ECP in the first place.
Only then getting hold the rhyme
A car bullets down the hardball.
to look there.
After,
In the shiver drifts a man or two.
get the sand out of your Charlie and mush.
Lightning, bodies brought out. I prepared a convincing gag, knowing at our next meeting I could count on trained eyes.
To detect any skid marks,
Any VDM. I was away, traveling, balls to the wall, OM, broke dick, LLMF, gold bricked and chopped up, passing from town to town, meeting bump swag.
I was OBE and lost track of time.
I've lost touch with many friends, too, and learned we live 7 years here,
7 years there,
and in afterthought,
or burn,
another 7 years again, and weave a life,
a glowing structure.
which now I hold pert,
Enter a porter,
knocking within, flourish, knocking within. I stowed the white mice in my pocket, edging around the garden with bow to the wind, anchored among the decoys.
he's bigger and grander than anything they offer me.
How do you know that?
Read aloud.
I don't know dick about politics and have no grand idea to drag onto the dance floor.
But something must be done to stop those people.
Enter with drums and colors, E,
R, gentlemen, soldiers,
knocking within, soft music. The next morning,
I took a polygraph.
electrodes fastened to head and chest, I went through the prelim pump and dump,
The control questions,
the stim test,
I watched the chain-smoking professor's frail wrists man the knobs.
like a cornhole boy, his lips frozen in a grimace.
I didn't sweat it.
I rolled the pebble between my toes and lied about everything except the centerfold.
Like the prince in the castle of 9 virgins.
Rip, rip, rip.
I watched the stylus
5 knots to nowhere.
leap across the cylinder. I was a volcano vomiting fire.
I was a patent of sagaciousness on the brevity and randomness of what lives. Exeunt omnes. As for life, we have computers for that. But then again, whenever CENTCOM barks, all something is
Something.
we know of problems en route.
Living with what I know has
EYA.
become
Or
hard.
absolutes
Like a
are
red
fudge
halo,
sticks, and always
a
some
red
first
circle
most
with bright
acrimonious
powder in the
son
middle of it,
escapes to
and that I
revenge
can be
Dicte's
discovered.
state.
Drag the old REMF goat by its horns down the mountain,
And from tree to tree,
stump to stump,
blazing blood,
fresh trail down the chain of command,
twist or burn,
from which
there,
there is
hard as a
no
headland,
going
dotted
back.
with trees,
stiff and uncomfortable after long hours rigid with concentration.
The night was gone,
And the sun,
or hamburger,
as it's sometimes called,
rose.
but absent access to primary sources.
Beyond the fence line, it's just a story. The little bastard up the hill.
But at least they take a side.
Someone
All
had
we do is
painted an
take
X
pictures dedicated to excellent design
The progression
of a person
from normal to tragically extraordinary,
to whom we've left a makeshift altar of empty ammunition casings entitled Military Delinquency. Can I get a Pepsi in a red glass?
storm still,
L, mad, crowned with reeds and flowers.
enter a herald pointing at G.
I want my world at the same point to become smaller and smaller,
And larger and larger,
to be both very small and large as it
as we
are,
the scales,
moving as we go,
as we are,
and to stop death,
first and last right here,
head over side of rail.
peering through the bars.
I want my world, exit, alarums, low march within,
The form is
be-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, and then dump, where then bears the off-screen diacritical mark, the terrific, breath-defying expanse of it,
sneaking balls to the wall, blue falcon, into town to bang a local waitress.
versus the if on which history, like spittle, hangs, and the humorless, bureaucratic, and needlessly restricted active,
powers
it's
that
really
be
quite simple.
depend.
With vigilance, cunning,
exeunt
and
omnes
pluck,
bearing
a way to
torches,
maintain a sense of
unmuffling
orientation in space,
within.
under paradoxical
Help me build this
within a
wall by
dangerous
adding
powers
words
that
to it, like
institutionalize
It only
evil
hurts
and
when
every
I breathe.
generation, a witch-finding
the chair
unit
stands in
emerges
its
to
usual
flesh out
place
fresh meat.
between two half-burnt thoughts,
Help me build this sound.
the voices.
Expulsions.
I like what everyone is doing and not doing, in circles, touching each other.
With words mostly. The preparatory stage requires such.
The efforts of carefully self-selected people of strong character, able to keep great secrets.
And if necessary, carry them to their graves.
They must have an extraordinary capacity for self-control and sacrifice.
Enter the players with reporters.
Daddy, don't go down to darkness today.
She falls upon her bed within the curtains.
The heart stopped.
Be still.
That's good.
It can't be got into words.
At the end of the day,
Moreover,
our ultimate model
would have had hardly any words or no words at all,
just images to prompt behavior.
like a yellow bird singing, to sign a single note between the ears,
To curve,
carve
intervolving,
sound forms
within a series
of shattered visages
If we could hold them at once,
in time,
a chandelier,
hung from the ceiling of being.
knock,
I have traveled as a goshawk,
and I am a flood across a field.
a wave breaking on a beach,
I took the form of ivy.
the womb of a forest at dawn.
I have been a light whose name is splendor.
I have been a snake.
There is hope in the trees on account of the holes made.
Is that a foreigner or a friend?
Am I a fire on a hilltop?
I have been a word in a book, experienced in battle.
It's crest a great wave after which it shuts comes.
They swear.
His head at the moment was 100 scoops.
And as many flavors of ice cream,
The poem of his skull, its surface,
or enough, surfeit, its lumps, hills and furrows,
is the moon waning or waxing,
touching a black rock,
or at the skull's center surrounded by misinformation.
silence surrenders.
There's considerably more to the operation of a big con
Than meets the eyes of even the most jaded observer.
particularly.
If he or she may think contact with the griffs limited to merely eyeballing a script, a false externality.
That's because even as we may take in its shape, we're being P, F, M simultaneously taken in,
Slate gray body
Knowing our
bag,
culpability is
disaster
essential.
where there's no
silver
removal,
The con's got no outside,
period,
full stop,
over which
like a
we
turnstile.
retch,
The horse was
Moreover,
covered in
the
fur,
closer we
slaughtered.
approach the
In the
squeeze,
dark,
even
the
balled
cockpit,
up, cowled
an
in
exchange
sweat at
cycle
its
of
core.
the
emasculation
more we've
is
become
enacted.
its makings part.
Over places.
Ink, nerve,
We realize
Bravo Zulu,
an inescapability,
including resistances near futility. The cons all vibua.
la-di-da,
At the same time, the greater our awareness of our culpability, the greater the commencement punishment.
beautifully,
The weight of conscience
shame,
inflicts
the con's retribution,
is self-inflicted
self-correcting,
and self-governing,
marginalizing and
ultimately
incapacitating.
At this point, you
Wrong.
cross toward the
Way
forward
or
area
another.
in the cockpit. We
undesirable
watch
elements,
SOL,
TLAR,
Or a
Can't
virtue,
hear him.
conscience,
the beginning of real
Yelling or
consciousness.
something.
becomes a curse,
And then we either consciously suffer its prick,
which seems contra natura,
according to the laws of the con itself,
or we put the ECP blinders back on and must become
as she writes,
connoisseurs of boredom,
But everything those people do is aimed at keeping the dial
flat at zero, exit.
above.
How many times and ways can this begin?
Because the poem can never end.
Tearing off his clothes,
Stabs him.
know the terrain,
Avenues of access and egress.
ways in
The prime.
and ways out, end again.
Are there possibilities for rapid maneuver? And where do I hide?
To hide me,
To bed meaning.
i.e., lol.
Do I get nervous?
Scared?
Sure, why shouldn't I?
One of the things that gives me a fine feeling of security is to think constantly of problems that may arise,
Lapses.
minor details.
That way, when the moment of decision arrives,
Everything is easier.
I am glad to report, fleeting,
Pleasures remain the emboweled native.
the diversions of direct perception,
Say,
which the arts of heart frame,
though largely co-opted,
sex,
it's correlative
possible still,
Memory.
for the gifted few,
and why it's ringed off by,
prohibition and taboo.
even though here money casts its eerie glow,
Emotions too may sometimes form unclouded,
as known in conscience,
but in the main they're quickly circular slung.
or nature may be free and found anywhere,
For all the cons sought to segment and sap it
but such discovery requires an equivalence,
in mete that's largely forsook.
ho-de-hum,
And then there's what of which we cannot speak.
again.
However,
These experiences prove glancing at best.
and it's back to life,
Back to duality,
a pink mist, kidafos.
knocking.
Enter boy with wine and tapers,
Or we've seen the enemy.
and it is the monster at the end of the rainbow. Be still.
Be still.
When we close on the line, it wavers.
We waver.
Books on a lotus. Window to the world.
Music plays,
UXO in front
Servants
of
with
me,
a
snapping
blanket.
to attention.
Whispers in ears.
This never
Structure
happened.
and rapid
a
fire
mission's a church,
And albeit we may be in different rooms,
or compartments,
the events are fluid.
and our words wide and open, limits in which we fit the gap the world grows from.
Groans from,
So best keep still,
bareheaded,
the gods open,
a floor of spiders.
cry within, help, help.
Each letter of the alphabet is a different war position.
The letter A is a ready soldier with legs splayed and arms akimbo,
B, the grenade grip,
sees a warrior ring,
its gap where the enemy is led.
in to close on O, where victories roar,
A sullen dance over nowhere
resounds,
and so it goes,
row on row, forming,
scattering and reforming.
marching words linked to captive joys
Promises,
that as they appear, crumble and recede.
so much more
Fodder of capitalist motor wash, demented statecraft, fed to zombie horde. Everyone is running around. Don't look there.
God damn it to hell, what the hell happened?
Even now, a rocket zooms toward Mars. As scoped, we can never leave the con.
Rather, most of what we are is in the game.
Awash in slosh,
We're grown through the enmeshings,
like a tree around a fence,
law
built to confine it.
with fence.
In this sense, both swag, trade, and what defines and confines Fobbit farmers.
We can't see the con because the areas that are in play are obscured and or absorbed like a pink cloud into our own criminality.
Or crime seeded into language, as corporeal imagery itself is codified by its warmth.
Or in language, we can't simultaneously maintain the awareness of what's forward opening and behind closing.
Or vice versa.
Though fire, we know, has neither front nor back.
go fold,
the very conceptual structures on which the Khan is framed,
including the grammar by which these words are rendered intelligible.
are soaked in its dance.
Enter 3 or 4 servitors, and their sole aim to separate us
He
began to cry.
He butted a guard in the eye.
They put him in the tomb.
Though alternate views are possible without sheer, the surest path to solving the complex
Technically demanding challenge of getting a grip is to remain perfectly still, even as such might cause one to be ill.
enter the clown with a basket.
And 2 pigeons in
A
it.
deep
Exit
blackness
messenger.
surrounds us.
They put him in the tomb. Enter the clown and 2 pigeons in it. Exit messenger. Word chords fragment.
Break,
Hang back.
call,
They have sad faces.
upturned in their splash sights.
To work with those shards, and in a wilderness of monitors, make a wall of winds,
Movement,
peepholes,
to organize a moment,
how to perfect the moment,
its fierce shine,
cut fire to forms in which an effect may take hold, whole cows,
across a red tablecloth.
to gauge what
A
remains.
square frame structure perched in the center of the roof of the main building, built from 9 different materials.
Noun,
Pronoun,
adjective,
verb,
adverb,
participle,
preposition,
conjunction.
But who turns?
interjection.
Everything
He put them into the bag last.
The whole thing.
A small, rounded, clearly demarcated sentence.
Took about 30 seconds.
Nobody knows what handholds may happen under a table.
But we can't see there from here.
Going forth with torches to fetch back light from hell,
To light our way ahead.
she sang.
Her fractured face on one elbow, squinting out one eye through a whiskey bottle on the piano,
At the dawn,
which was the color of it.
wrath of the sun splintered over the mountains.
Playing something sad and soft to nobody listening.
We cop to any sop,
In fact, we'll pay dearly for it,
quitte fausse,
rather than face the whole.
and the more outrageous the better.
It makes life biting.
But fangs stuck in floorboard,
We bite Bravo Zulu
only ourselves,
into messenger.
to servants within. There is no God, but strife wrapped in a sod,
The population grows.
or proliferates.
In the windshield is a bullet hole.
A dick holster, embracing
I limit my ideas to basic classical themes.
man
Animal.
and a little landscape.
It sounds boring.
But I found in these 3 subjects all the madness in the world may be found. Words meeting and parting again, to meet and part again and again out ahead,
What came before words,
before wine,
before the goddess.
darkness and terror, be still. Between the lines the sun rhymes.
A knock.
Even primitive man felt a horror of human beings murdering each other,
They shrank back
as though touching fire.
and then drew closer.
But there must have been music in those caves,
Something to dance around.
she went on to exclaim, exeunt. We shadow, treat the world like a rental car,
Emergency is a direct means of response.
which leaves no room for thought,
Doubt.
the dwindling,
It is reflex.
without perspective,
Act without.
shadow,
And high noon durable jelly sans distance.
the blade on its end,
Over the pupil of the eye, ready to punch
the black hole home. She sent forth her frenzied cry,
her heart immense and unending foaming
with the blood of harvest,
aflame,
with the smell of mown grasses.
or was it song?
Who knows? A song, most likely. She rode out of the unknown to nowhere.
Rockets boomed and novas exploded into galaxies,
But she didn't hear them. It was the call of the migrating cranes overhead that drove her on.
Kneeling, giving a paper.
Even he'd been an idiot, adorned with tasks, a necklace of skulls,
The letters in my head,
a product of the movies,
filled with icy,
thick, crisscrossing thoughts.
I had to make a tremendous effort to keep my personalities
Their each ineffable glow.
from getting mixed up.
She bemoans,
They fight.
Located on a knoll 50 feet
dies.
Knock.
in the direction
To untangle a knot, we need the mind of a line, of a cyclops, clear barrel,
Fight.
a phoenix in.
I've tried to pile the pump and dump high enough to climb to see past myself to the wee holes set off where everywhere everything goes berserk.
Reach far enough to show just how gone things
Properties,
are,
but am sunk with
with just my great poked out.
The puzzle palace resembled the inside of a beehive, put together by bees working completely at random.
Taking R's dagger.
regarding the con's airborne nature.
Enter a third gentleman, exeunt severally.
The goal's never been to eliminate crime,
After all, it's the human basis.
but rather instead of everyone being on their own trying spree.
To centralize and coordinate the process.
Enter with drum and colors.
See,
Doctor.
and soldiers.
In this case,
He puts the handkerchief from him and drops it.
Me o tot me schwam. Exit. Above.
Opens his study door.
No one knew what the mode of selection had been, and a certain amount of suppressed curiosity was manifest as we milled around in a state of rectal cranial inversion, trying to act as if we did.
Or how much do the other guys know I knew, I don't know I knew?
Of course, one slim figure completely phenomenized the scene,
Despite the cold evening,
and as if the most natural thing in the world,
she wandered around in nothing but a very white pair of panties,
her blonde hair piled on top of her head, knotted Greek style,
way out. There, houses, parked cars.
buttresses, lives drug and dug in.
I must just chuck them into the model.
Get the bastards in.
Why did they say that?
Is that some secret ritual they go through?
The careless people.
The ghouls at the edge of the frame. Be still. Aside.
to the brief burst
My God, he didn't have any brains left.
He kills her.
The fresh sheets of copper on the courthouse's new dome will fade to gray-green in a year,
The state fades too.
and its end when each may rule how each is apart.
Is the art.
But what about the impaired,
Delinquent.
the loose and shiftless,
Rummy and drifter.
punk,
Salvo kicker.
goofball,
Goner.
deficient,
Derelict.
doofus,
Doper.
hobo, tosser,
Geek.
the cripple and wretch,
Stranger.
budmash,
Waif.
lowlife,
Vagrant.
those ragmen and outcasts,
Tramps.
oddballs,
Hopheads.
mudlarks,
Gammons.
and gamines,
i.e. the
encamped
poor,
under the
i.e.
bridge
fear,
at Jungle
i.e.
Court,
lava.
roasting roadkill over the fire pit.
The sun sets through trees, music leaves.
Kick the tires and light the fuse.
Enter the messenger again.
Nobody is afraid here. Life goes on as usual.
Always giving parties to cover the silence.
Exit, soothsayer,
No marks.
to G.
Striking his head.
Another thing that lends me a fine feeling of security is the opportunity to convey misinformation,
She writes.
to chat on and on about my life. Mitnya jin so myonya
Enter a servant,
others following.
Enter below, B,
In his nightgown
with servants.
and torches,
It is
in the final stages
of dysentery,
that things become interesting.
as past the last anal gasp,
The sphincter continues to grasp.
as though there were some remaining salvo to discharge.
That final heave
However,
would produce straight away the rectum itself.
an impossible exchange.
But we strain at that threshold
Pink, green, protruding,
in pleasure and in pain.
to give such carnage birth.
Hierarchies are built on boredom.
Misinformation,
I am
and anything new,
is a beginning.
anything
Old, remembering. Anything new bores
makes a hole in.
the old.
But there's no tomorrow without remembering.
No dreaming.
Only now.
The traction screws groove to turn clockwise in my head.
Make it now.
Bravo Zulu,
But we remain.
like it or not,
Built of boredom.
draws a knife.
Music plays.
Sound a flourish.
Drums.
In me there are ECPs I'll never show. There isn't time. But we all have them and may
From the top of our heads to our toes.
open our minds.
Moment to moment.
What we hold together holds us true.
After what time we have is gone.
Through. There's always some left, unused,
Unsaid.
to gather and dangle out ahead.
Darkness and terror.
The craters immediately under the monster. Be still. Aside.
And then we're going to blow up stuff.
Light people on fire.
Enter 4 or 5 of the guard A.
We glory in simple sing-along word sets and splash in waves of hysteria.
Cooked up emotions and wild mass partisan propaganda fed passions.
Observe how the slogans
Coded to some culture fable.
crest on the surge to form tension spikes forever predicated on near-term catastrophes
Collapses.
that bristle at the edge of the whole.
The monitor.
But mingled in earth's dust is a measure of beauty,
It is that.
not lips of clay.
We kiss with 100 ecstasies.
A dies.
Most of our lives we've been hooded.
By hooded, picture a prophylactic as concretely efficacious as the burqas worn in fundamentalist worship, or the black sacks knot over the heads of those detained within corporate culture.
In both cases, the function is to make their wares more pliant, though noting.
And importantly, in terms of understanding degrees of separation,
The former provides eye slits.
whereas the latter don't,
In fact, sometimes the detained have their eyes taped shut.
in addition to being black dropped.
The hood's the con.
Namely, there exists a separation formed of word pap between how and what we believe we are
Our beginnings and ends.
and what's happening
Going off.
around us, within which we've, unbeknownst, COB, no sway,
Feet, however, may be partially free, and even hands,
and we may gesture a little,
even if it's to our own shade.
enter from opposite sides
See
with his sword drawn,
and see.
sleeps.
What government
To say
will
no
happily
is the
permit
beginning
its
of
subjects
conscience,
to free
and
themselves from its own
deniability,
rhetoric?
character,
Just as the show heats up, what theater troupe throw up the lights?
Or
One end
draw
of the sun,
aside
the
the
other in the
curtains to
event.
reveal an empty
Anyway, it
stage.
goes on.
It is then we lose our illusions.
What had survived even at the end of hope.
Ig sa pop shit cough.
Steps forth,
Let's break this one too.
and then they'll be equal.
Like a spider, quiet and motionless, I can sometimes hear the brainwash purr of computer god containment policy.
On more than one occasion, this has saved my life.
Enter the prince and attendants. For all the emphasis on mission symmetry,
However,
we retain in general the idea of theft,
that's why we lock on a missing part.
or fear equals the unintended,
It hugs
holds in state
what we want in,
what we don't,
where we want, need,
glory
is here
patriotic
scrambling,
bunting
to render a
what,
some
pang,
face forward,
sick,
some
sick,
back,
sick,
according
sick,
to the law.
figmo,
aside to her sons,
kisses tea,
clock strikes,
emotion and beauty equal the body thinking and the mind touching.
reason nests in awe.
The rest is treason,
The death's head lodged in the upper right,
which we can visualize only via a dancing eye pattern, mimicking those unconscious flicks or micro-saccades long considered mere motor noise, though actually actively controlled by the same spasm that hugs what eyes scan these lines.
and here it comes,
UYA.
kneeling,
It wasn't the men, but their smell she brought home.
a scent no amount of showering seemed to absorb,
Or it was more than a smell, maybe.
as though their cries were soaked into her skin that
Translucent,
one could see through,
into the pit.
not within.
It is desirable to have those people, wittingly or not, red on red, falter first. But we mustn't wait until in some perfect bat turn conditions lock.
Rather bring them on,
Hurl with all your right might against anything CENCOM.
knock,
An operative is held by both hope and fear. The early modern allegorist
not woodcutter,
wrote,
though
"A tree mirrors the lung's structure
albeit attached,
to the photosynthetic breath
the harness.
of earth through which its roots wend."
Moreover, they say the man in the moon's a wood stealer who, having committed a trespass,
Was transported there as punishment.
he may be seen there today with an axe on his back and in his hand a brushwood's bundle.
Plainly enough, the water pole of the heathen's story has been transformed into the axe's shaft.
The carried pail into the thorn bush.
He's the one who goes naked to the center of the maze to slaughter the bull-headed monster of the double axe, the labrys,
from which we derive
labyrinth.
seeing the body.
I sense our choice is facing either a mirror or a monitor.
I have been a water molecule in the sky and the tooth of a dragon.
I've been a tree at the edge of a volcano.
100 hands, they
Whisper, taking out the garbage.
on every bill and coin is a mugshot of a president.
And so on all our money is a reminder of our debt to crime.
Society,
Money, of course, is debt, and it's edged in pain given and taken,
a constancy.
a threshold.
There is no mugshot of the bloody.
The world, burbling, ungroans on, power's jaws open
Always ready to deflower.
to strip
Arms outstretched.
from under the wreckage of a past civilization the thought to speech to text mojo,
The out of focus moments.
one after another after the next.
Mistake after mistake after mistake.
Friar stoops and looks on the blood and weapons.
The polite
Delicate
and decent.
are different names for hypocrite
Liar.
and coward.
Nor there's a difference between
What we think,
and what we do.
for to think's to do.
But that doesn't portend
We want to blow out our brains, to foxtrot our own skulls,
or do, but we ought to think before we do.
give thought to where we do, and what's there in what we do,
And when and how,
what position we assume,
and how others are around us.
their arrangement and timing,
The vine grows spirally up its crop, portending resurrection.
A house appears,
A bed in a room,
a complex of tensions,
all of which
sexual in origin.
occur inside our heads.
Its movements mimic the dance of the cock, performed for a hen audience, quaking with excitement,
The cock flutters in circles,
with a hobbling gait,
one heel held ready to strike the rival's head,
living with what I know has become a horror,
like a red halo,
a red circle with bright matter in the middle of it.
and that,
I can be discovered.
she writes,
Someone has painted an X visible in the sunlight, near the shadows cast by the trees.
this does not mark the correct spot, but it's become part of the area's allure and so maintained.
I am the four crows on the phone line outside the kitchen window,
8 eyes ready to play servant, to
paranoid trances in which time suspended,
in spiritual spasms,
indistinguishable,
from the
ineffably beautiful moment,
that precedes
an epileptic fit,
Actually, it is really quite simple.
with vigilance
Cunning.
and pluck,
A player can maintain a sense of orientation in space
and ponder paradoxical subtleties
with a dangerous,
within a dangerous, sinuous maze.
falls
The information we give up
as individuals and as a pack.
is consummately harvested to manipulate us.
We are reaped like wheat,
Sides level to the right,
to run the blade across the eyes,
the use of questions and answers,
the old life's buried,
and a new and different being begins to appear.
a bell rung.
Thunder and lightning.
There
is blood on all money,
money in our purse or vest pocket,
in our money clip or wallet,
the blood of children,
Egyptian blood,
the blood of Goya,
memory, shut up in color,
I am a wind of the sea for depth,
and a wave of the sea for weight.
its sound without breath.
I am an ox of 7 fights and stag of 7 tines,
Griffin,
or hawk on a cliff, a tear of the sun among flowers.
a boar suns himself among,
I am a hill of word forms,
a battle spear poking fire for a head. Enter P,
with his page.
with flowers and sweet water and a torch.
It's not too much to say. When the word blood is evoked, this is a sign, reasons about to fart.
She writes,
Aside.
I saw
What
What I mean is,
what the
W
fuck?
felt
does this say? It's shoring and clamor up the shingles toward the swing-slung tree and competitive toe-in swaying to the rhythm of the heat pattern or sinking of cochlea to bird cries.
Or traffic words come,
And this is what it occurs to me words come
to cries,
to
among squeals,
get from one place to another
knowing we have
or tried,
on the grid
and to stop death,
what the book is.
to pump Wei-Yang,
I have no home in this world anymore.
reads the letter,
We rented a series of railroad flops.
a hatch on one end and a quarter,
God knows we are just passing through,
an engine out ahead,
though way ahead.
a moment distant and hemmed by cliffs.
They play and enter the
Clown.
I had a dream
Find a woman.
and place my gun in her.
Cleave fullest practically to the brief, bristling pauses in which the rungs go into each other,
The rich accumulate money to protect them from its result,
i.e. the poor,
i.e. fear.
i.e. Alala, the mouse ran up the clock and
Jammed in its works,
stops,
it stops.
blood spurt over faces.
Enter murderers.
To say no is the beginning of conscience,
and
and deniability character.
is
As
destiny.
character is destiny, or jouissance, juice.
One end in the sun, the other in the event.
Anyway, it goes on.
Moonlight, like this.